Today I'm talking to Kimberly Knausz, a top real estate agent in South Florida with Sotheby's International Realty. The focus and niche of Kimberly's business is professional athletes. This focus is what brought her to being a top real estate agent in the company. We talk about how narrowing your focus grows your business and your success.
Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship.
All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today we are talking to Kimberly Knausz from South Florida with Sotheby's International Realty. Kimberly, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Hi, Jere.
Hi. So, Kimberly, we'll see where this goes, but I really love Kimberly's business model in that she is specialized in who her customer is and how she does business. Her typical customer is basically a professional athlete. But Kimberly, elaborate on that for us and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in the business.
Sure. Well, I got into real estate 14 years ago. And since then, I have transitioned my business probably about more 10 to 12 years ago into the sports and entertainment industry. And I worked with a couple athletes and then ended up joining a company that specialized in that because of the custom homes and the marketing that they need. They're very custom. And so after that, we joined Sotheby's and started their sports and entertainment division. So that was a really great stepping stone, having the sports and entertainment division, but now having Sotheby's and having the whole Sotheby's International Realty network has just taken my business to another level for that type of clientele.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, when I got in 14 years ago, I started as a real estate assistant, and the agent that I was working for all of a sudden just started forwarding their calls to me, and they were MIA. And so I got thrown into it really quickly.
What a cool opportunity. I love it.
Yeah, learned really fast. And then, I got my license, and that was always the goal. Got my license, started with a boutique company, and went from there. So it's really been fun.
So the first question I love to ask everybody, we've kind of already answered it, but I'm going to get you to elaborate on it, is, real estate is such a competitive industry. If you kind of think when you get your license that I'm going to get my license and my friends are going to sell their houses with me, and then you get your license and you realize your friends also know, 30 other people that have their licenses and have all kinds of obligations and can't decide who to hire. So in a competitive industry like that, my first question always is, what is it that gives you your competitive edge so that you can win business and stay a top agent?
Well, I would say there's two different things. And I love this question. One is my niche market of having the sports and entertainment division and having that type of clientele. So that really, I know how to cater to them. I know their needs. I know they're moving often and quickly and need more than just a house. It may be having cars transported, getting a private chef in a new location. I had someone ask me for size 23 custom shoes, which I got. So there's always, whatever market they're going into,
right.
I know more than just finding them, a roof over their heads. And it's getting all of those things in place for them to make the transition as smooth as possible. So that's one thing. The other thing would be really leveraging the network that we have. I sat down and I just brought on a new agent that I'm mentoring. And when I met with him, he got his license and talked to a couple agents he knew. He happened to be one of my former clients. And
wow.
And we were having a glass of wine, and the owner of the restaurant came up and was talking to him. And almost immediately when I said that I was a realtor, sort of just dismissed me and was just talking to him, not really paying attention to me. And he said, well, I'm trying to learn from Kim. And she said, oh, you should call this person. You should call this person right in front of you. Really crazy. And she said, I just had to sell my parents' house in Indy, and I just Googled a realtor and I found one. I did all the work, and it really didn't matter who I listed with, but I was able to find someone. And I said, well, that's too bad that you did all the work, because the beauty of our network is if you call me, and even though I'm your realtor here, I have a great agent in Indy that could have listed that house for you, did the work, and then you could have just, worked on your restaurant that you just opened and not had to work on that as well.
And by the way, your house might have sold for more money, because houses that for sale by owner on average sell for 20% less than houses represented by agents. Besides all this stuff.
She did all the work, and it was
wow.
That made no sense to me. And so as I was talking about our network and what we did, and gave an example of a client that I have helped, she completely shifted her energy to me, and she said, you have changed my perspective in 2 minutes of what I thought of realtors. And she said, I have to be honest with you, I did not have a high opinion of realtors. And she said, you completely changed how I view realtors and what they do. And she said, Todd, you should go work with her.
Good job. That's awesome.
It was great, but it is, I think that when people hear realtor, especially in South Florida, everybody knows multiple realtors. You have to differentiate yourself, because you want to be highly regarded in your profession, and Sotheby's gives it that, but you have to utilize it, because Sotheby's is a great brand, but if you don't utilize it, it's not doing you any justice.
It's kind of like, actually, it was Brad Nelson that said this. You can join any gym you want, but you still have to use it and leverage it. So being able to leverage your resources like Sotheby's International Realty, and then having your specialty, excuse me, everybody, having your specialty on top of that. So there's a few things on top of that question. So how do you, when so you specialized in working with athletes. Like, athletes are the kinds of people that we don't have the phone numbers for. Everybody wants their autograph. They're very well-known people. And it's important that you establish not only relationship, which is often next to impossible, but a level of trust with athletes. So how did you go about, and some of that may have come your way, but how did you go about specializing and developing those relationships? Or what are some important lessons you've learned in going through the process of creating such a specialized niche in the industry?
Well, I think you touched on two of them right there, and that's trust, building that trust. And that comes from being an honest person and doing a good job, and then also discretion. And I use names or testimonials only when I have permission to do so. So I see a lot on social media of realtors snapping pictures with this person, this person, and this person, not just realtors, any profession, because it looks cool or whatever. And that's great. And that works for their business, but that's not how I work my business. I put some stuff out there, and I definitely have heard that I should put more out there, but I just really respect the privacy and confidentiality of, their life. And I've definitely been in a showing where someone's asking for a photo.
Wow. Yeah.
Often, because I know how to manage it, but once in a while someone really just, doesn't care, and they'll ask for that. And it's just uncomfortable when you're trying to just take a place in and somebody's sort of starstruck. I got into it with, I had some friends in the industry, in the sports industry. And I had a few clients come to me that way. And it really was just building that relationship, having a friendship, level of trust, doing a good job for them. And then it led to referrals. And whether it was from the players or their business manager, financial advisor, or agent, realizing that I did a good job and kept everyone in the loop, I was professional about everything, then that's when my referrals really started growing and snowballing. Definitely going above and beyond. Like I said, finding someone for shoes, or a chef, or a dry cleaner that will come to your house. haircuts are important. So barbers.
Love it. You know, it makes me think, say, Michael Carucci is an agent in Boston, and I talked to him about, you know, what is it that sets you apart? It was a very similar answer to yours. He said, we do real estate and everything else. So he said, you know, we do real estate, but we have clients that come in town and they're coming late and they need a place to, they're coming, like he had one client come into a place to stay and they had a kid with a food allergy. So they had the house completely stocked with food that the son wasn't allergic to so that they could have a meal. Or they didn't have the house stocked, but they had, you know, enough stuff in the house for snacks and a meal ready for them when they got home that night. But there are things of bringing to certain clients that level of service that's necessary because of the circumstances in which they live in, which athletes kind of have the same, like needing a size 23 shoe.
Yeah. I mean,
that had to be a basketball player.
It was, yeah.
I mean, that's a big, because those are big guys. I mean, that is that is hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I just really, I thought, okay, well, this is a request I haven't had before, but I know I can figure this out. And I just really thought of who's the biggest client that I have, you know, and who's the tallest guy. And I called him and I said, where do you get your shoes? And then, you know, that's sort of, he gave me the owner of a company where he gets custom shoes, and, you know, the rest was history. So that was good. But there's definitely just going above and beyond and doing that kind of thing, builds that trust for them. Also, I'm not asking for pictures. I'm not asking for autographs. I truthfully don't care at this point. I've worked with a lot of people. I've only been starstruck a couple times, and that was by, you know, maybe just a complete legend. So, you know, that kind of thing. But it really doesn't affect me because that's what I do every single day.
Exactly.
So to me, it's exciting. I like sports. I understand them. I grew up in Cleveland. Our seasons revolve around. So, you know, I have a chat with my dad and my brother, and it's always about the Browns or the Cavs, you know, what's going on here, what's going on with this team. So I understand it, I get it, and I like it, but it's not something that to me is, you know, I don't get starstruck. So I think just also telling them exactly, being completely honest with someone. So I've had guys come to me and say they want to buy a house. And yes, I definitely could have made more money maybe initially, but I've said, why don't you rent for a year? Because you don't know you've never owned before. You've never even been to Florida. So you don't know if you want a house. You don't know if you want a condo, townhouse. You don't know what it takes to maintain it. Here is what it takes to maintain it. And I can get you in touch with a landscaper and a pool guy and, you know, all of that. But why don't we find you a rental in the meantime? I could have made more money in the beginning, but I think that being honest and the referrals coming to me from them is way more important. And in the long run, I think that's made my business more successful than just trying to have one deal.
Absolutely. Well, you've referred me a few clients, and every time, just the rapport, and thank you, by the way, because rapport it built with me immediately, besides the referral, was amazing. But the rapport that you build with them, because I think a few things are important that I like to share with everybody about the way you do businesses. You're always very professional and very informative, but you also are not afraid to be friends with your clients because you are looking out for what's best for them, putting them number one, not focused on the deal, but focused on what's best for my client. And in doing that, it becomes, you know, we just did an interview with Brad Henderson, and he talks about, you know, he went from commercial, and now he's the CEO of Canada Sotheby's International Realty. And he talks about, you know, you guys are really friends. Like, you really develop a friendship with all of your clients that you don't see in commercial. And I see you doing that with athletes where a lot of people would back off, and you've got these friendships with these athletes. They're like a family member. You're like a family member. They trust you. They can really count on you to deliver for them, and they know that you understand them and their lifestyle and what they need. And I think that's an important element of this business that some people do miss out on. So I don't know how many stories you can share, but if you've got a fun story you can share about your clients and the cute, fun stuff that they do, we'd love to hear one.
Well, I've had I think part of the friendship grows, and it's just like any client, really. You become friends with some and not with others, you know. I mean, I never have a bad relationship with anyone, but you just become closer with certain clients than you do with others, and it might just be their lifestyle, your lifestyle, whatever it is. But, I love, for example, the other day, and this is not an athlete or anyone, actually, they're in the music industry, but they were texting me photos of their newborn baby. And it's so exciting to me when I get that kind of thing. I love it because you work with them to find this home and this room is going to be the nursery. And then that relationship, it slows down because you're not seeing them or talking to them every day for the transaction. But I love getting those updates and then going to visit and that kind of thing and seeing how the house has turned out. But as far as some of the athletes, there was a really funny, one of my favorite clients. He's so funny to me. He just is one of those guys. He's always got a smile on his face and a really engaging personality. And he had just moved in here to his apartment in South Florida. And he texted me saying that his washer wasn't working. And I thought, we just went through.
Are you kidding me? That's hilarious. Right.
It was 2 days ago. I said, well, I don't remember your specific washing machine, but typically you turn it to the setting and you pull the knob out. And he wrote back, LOL. And I said, well, is it working? And he was like, yes, ma'am. And it was
oh, God, that's awesome.
And you have to remember that, they're 21 coming from college, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of athletes, some of them have never had a job before because they've trained their entire life to get to this point in their career. So they're working, but it's training, it's 2-day practices and everything. So they haven't worked in maybe an office or even a restaurant. So it's different. It's a different skill set that they have. And they're at the top of their game. They're getting drafted into.
But they still can't, that doesn't mean they can operate a washing machine, among other things.
Yeah, and they get thrown into it. So it's so funny. And then that same client texted me, I think, saying his lights weren't working. And I said, well, did you pay your FPL bill? His electric
I love
bill?
the fact, I would be worried about something's wrong with the electric panel because I'm used to people who pay their electric bills and know how to operate washing machines. Yeah. Or wouldn't call me if that was the problem because you kind of become mama bear. Yeah. But the fact that that they probably didn't pay their electric bill because they've never had to before, or the fact that you can even think that they don't know how to operate. I mean, because that's not my client. That's great, though, because it's such a cute example, but it's relevant to when you have a specific kind of client, the way you're able to, even on cute little things like that, it's powerful, and it delivers over and over again.
Yeah. Well, and then when that happens, that it reminds me, right? So then the next time I'm working with a client that's that young or that kind of thing, I remember to emphasize those things and go through that. And let's go through, setting up your utilities that you have.
Oh, wow.
Or something like that. So it's always a learning experience. And, I was mentioning, I had, the other night I was baking for my office. And one of my clients I posted a picture because it was so pretty. I made this red velvet cheesecake and it was really pretty. So I posted a picture on my Instagram story. And the next day my client messaged me and said, you save me a piece of that cheesecake. And I said, well, you can stop at the office all day. Sure enough, he did. He stopped in and asked for a piece of cheesecake. I wasn't even there. They hooked him up with a piece of cheesecake.
This guy's like a famous athlete stopping by your office for a piece of cheesecake.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
So funny. And, my office texted me after, oh, was that a Dolphins player? He was like 6'5". I'm like, yeah. But we do, we form relationships, and it's just, I think it's just important because a lot of times when people come to town, they're new here and they don't know anyone. And I'm one of the first people they come in contact with in a professional capacity. Mm-hmm. So, they have their agent, sometimes the financial advisor, and they're meeting people with the team. They really don't know anyone else. So I've had people ask for recommendations. Where do I take my mom to eat when she comes into town?
Oh, yeah. But you become really kind of like a mom or a sister to a lot of your clients. And I think the message in that is know what you are. Your clients, our clients might think they're coming to us to find them a house, which they still are, but there are also other needs that we fulfill that we need to be open to that create that kind of value, and the value, the relationship, the loyalty that grows businesses like yours that have done so well. What can you tell us about, I think every really successful person has had their challenges, and it's usually our challenges that make us the strong, successful people we are and become. Winston Churchill and Abraham Lincoln being great examples. I keep referencing Brad Henderson, but those were a couple that he's given us. But what is a challenge that you've gone through in our business, or even a mistake you've made, or something you can share that wasn't so great, but how did you overcome that, and how is it relevant and applied to the success you have now?
Well, when the market crashed here, I was only a few years into the business. So that was a really tough, trying time. There were pros and cons to it, of course. We had a correction with prices. Prices were really out of control at that time. And it also weeded out a lot of agents that were in the business for the wrong reasons. To work part-time, make full-time money, just make a few bucks off their relatives or neighbors, that kind of thing. Everyone was doing it on the side. So for me, it weeded out a lot of people. In hindsight, it was good. But at the time, it was really, really challenging. Yeah. And it hurt us bad. We also had just had 2 hurricanes back to back. So we went through 2 hurricanes, which had already started to slow things down. And then the market crashed. And it was a really trying time. But what I did, I thought, okay, well, sales are slowing down. There's still needs. People still need to move for a variety of reasons. So I started just pumping out rentals, and I did what I had to do to survive. I didn't have to. I know so many people that had to go get another job. And a lot of people were really hesitant. Oh, I don't want to get into rentals. That's not my thing. I just adapt, whatever's going on in the market, that's what I have to do to make money. That's fine. And it worked out really well because those people eventually become buyers a lot of times. So I did more rentals than I could probably count, but it helped me stay in real estate, still build relationships within the industry. I didn't have to go get another job or leave the career completely. And I think I just came out stronger from it because I've heard even an agent in my office said, do you remember when we were scraping together change in your car for like McDonald's or something? And we were just all talking about it because everything was moving. It was so
crazy.
Slow.
It was crazy.
Yeah. So we definitely, and I can't even, how my business has grown since then has just been tremendous. And I'm so glad that I stuck it out and went through that because it's only made me, I've always been a really hard worker. That's just, I think, how my family, how I was raised and how the town where I'm from, where we were, it was just very hard work.
So where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Cleveland.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You told us that. Sorry, everybody. You told us that already. So what do you, a lot of people talk about, I don't want to specialize, I can't specialize because then I might lose business or I might pigeonhole myself into a certain kind of client. Can you give us a little insight into that? Because you were very specialized and very outspoken about it and not afraid to be very specific. And of course, you attract an ideal client, but you still have competition. But what can you share with us about the importance and what it's done for you and why you feel it would or wouldn't pigeonhole you or how you work with that?
It certainly has come up. Some of my clients who are just my friends, families that I work with, not in the sports and entertainment industry, they will ask me, will you take this on or would you consider this? And like, of course, I sold you the house. Yes. You're still my clients. So I haven't changed what I do. I think I'm just more outspoken about it because that business has grown so much. But I definitely have people ask me about that all the time. And it's just, I'm not an athlete. I'm not a musician, that's not me. And most of, my friends, a lot of them are not. So I still want to work with them. It's still relationships that are important to me. I'm going to do the same for them that I would do for anyone else. So I think that it's just really having open communication about that. And people know that, yes, it's a good portion of my business, but it's not all of my business. I think it probably makes up 60 to 70% of my business.
Yeah. Well, something we talked about earlier too was that, for example, in my business, I specialize in Brookhaven and Buckhead, and I started just in Brookhaven, or in a neighborhood called Historic Brookhaven in Atlanta, where the average sales price is $1 million. So it's a good neighborhood to specialize in. But it's, in doing that, and I think in doing what you do, maybe it shuts a few doors, but it's opened more doors than it's closed. And I think I see the relationships that you have and referrals that we've been able to share, and that it's opening doors not only, that you wouldn't have had before, but occasionally it has opened a door that I didn't win, but that door would have never been open in the first place had I not put myself into a specialty to get the exposure and the relationships that I had in the first place.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And it's also communicating to those clients, but I think it's important to remember, it's like, if I'm going to go to a doctor, I'm going to go to a doctor who specializes in what I need. I mean, this is so cliche. Everybody knows this. I'm speaking common sense, but I think it's important for us to remember that in my business, because it literally, I don't know about you, but for me, not being afraid to know a market and specialize in it is what took my business from mediocre to being a top agent.
Absolutely. It completely makes a difference, and I wouldn't change anything about that. I think that it certainly opened doors for me, especially once they realize what I do in terms of, it's not just real estate in South Florida, that if they go anywhere, that I can relocate them wherever they're going. So
I have such a strong network with Sotheby's. Exactly.
With Sotheby's, with agents that I was working with even before I was with Sotheby's in other markets. So in any major market, I can place you. So they don't have to think every time. I've had guys be in 4 different cities in one season. So they just call me and I'm like, okay, well, let's get you into just like temporary housing here or there, whatever it is, whatever their needs are, they know they can call me and I'll get that taken care of for them. So they don't have to find a new realtor every single time.
That goes back to that message of opening doors, because you specialize in working with athletes and celebrities. You have now opened the door because you're focusing on a certain kind of client to servicing them in more than one market.
Right.
Because literally they know they can call you, and it doesn't have to be Miami. They're going to call you in whatever market they're going to, because they know that they can trust you because of those relationships that you've developed with them. So,
absolutely. I'm working on a lot of the NFL draft picks right now. They're going, really exciting time. I went to the draft in Dallas. I took my brother with me. It was so much fun. Awesome. And one of my clients actually asked if I wanted to go, and I thought, sure. I've never before. What a cool experience. So they're with the Cleveland Browns organization, and they offered me tickets. So I got to meet with them there and take my brother, who's a huge Browns fan since we grew up there. And but now it's really a busy time for me, because the new rookies are coming into different markets and getting them situated and educating them on real estate in general. A lot of it's an education process, because this is a first purchase for them. So it's educating. And I think that they see the value once they work with me, knowing that it's someone who specializes in what they do. When we're talking about specialty, they can go to any realtor, and any realtor can sell them a house. That's fine. But when they see what I add to them, when I'm writing a lease and I'm making sure that there's an early termination clause in there, because we don't know if they're going to be traded.
And you're thinking of these things. Yeah.
I'm ahead of them on it. Writing confidentiality clauses into my contracts.
Yeah.
So if you see my clients' names out there, it's because I chose to put them out there, and
they chose. Yeah, exactly.
We put them out there if we're selling a house, if it's in the public record. So people are going, because they're going to get it anyway. So I always say, let's get ahead of it. Let's put it out there, but let's put the spin we want on it. What's the reason you're really selling? Because media outlets tend to run with they're in financial distress or speculation. They're not happy with the team. They don't want to be on the Heat. They don't want to be on the Dolphins. They don't want to be on the Panthers. So they tend to just run with whatever they want. So I always say, okay, we're going to list this house. We're going to get ahead of it. And we have a PR team.
Write your own story. Yeah.
Go to the media outlets before it's listed. And that's the way to do it. But there's definitely, you can see, I know right away, if my clients, if I give them that option, typically they always choose the confidentiality, and we use the name if they're selling it, and only because that generates more interest in the property.
What is since you've been in the business, what is your biggest aha that you've had about being a real estate agent? Because we all know everybody has a perspective on what this business is like.
My biggest aha, I think that, and it's very simple, and a lot of people probably realized this way before I did. But when I got into the market, and I think it's because it was such a hot market and everyone was a realtor, and it was just, people were writing offers in the backseat of their cars, and it was just mess. But everyone was competition. Every other realtor, it was just competition, right? And we all compete. That's what we do. We're salespeople. If we didn't have a competitive bone in our bodies, then we wouldn't be good at what we do. But really, I didn't realize utilizing, just having good relationships with other agents, how important that is. And I've learned that, especially since joining Sotheby's, but even, a few years prior, I wish I would have realized this much earlier, but really building relationships with agents and other companies and not viewing them as competition, because they are, but we're also working together. We want to put deals together. Having good relationships with agents is definitely something that I have turned around over the last, I didn't have bad relationships. I just didn't have much of relationships with others.
Exactly the same experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's made such a world of difference to me, because having that good relationship, when you're going to put in an offer and you know them, or they have had a good experience with you, even if it's just showing a listing and just being pleasant, building those relationships has been
it can make or break a deal for you. We actually have an interview with Patrick Lilly about just on that, just because he's so big on relationships, just on relationships. As he came in the business, you came in the business, I came in the business. Everybody tells you this is a cutthroat business. You just kind of have that frame of mind. The realtors are cutthroat people. They're all competitive. And then I don't know what flipped the switch for me, but one day you're like, oh, wait a minute, they're just like me. We're all in this together. And oh, by the way, the thing I love about our business is, yeah, we do compete for listings with the same clients, but more often than not, we're working together to make deals happen more often than we're ever competing for them. And in doing that, I've gotten deals that I couldn't have gotten done because the agent knew and trusted that I was going to be an agent to work with and not make life hell and kill the deal for everybody, for lack of a better way of saying it. So what do you think, what flipped the switch for you? Was it anything in particular? Or?
I think that I sort of already had that, just having a couple good experiences. That was already, I saw how things were working for me a different way. Just, maybe, I know this agent and this client called me last minute. It's 24-hour notice, but she might get me in, because we have a relationship.
Oh, wait, yeah, better start being nice to her.
I don't like to take advantage of that, and please try to give as much notice as you can for showings. But that kind of thing, I started noticing that. And then when I joined Sotheby's, they talked about that. Yeah. And I think it was just a manager at that time. I don't remember who specifically did, but I remember them talking about that. And I said, okay, well, there must be something to it. I've already sort of been noticing this. I really need to work harder to,
embrace.
Make that a priority, because I've had some really trying transactions. And when I have a good relationship with the agent on the other side, it's just a world of difference. And when you feel like you're butting heads and everything, it's just, we already have a difficult buyer and seller maybe, or one of the parties might be difficult. But if that's a good relationship, it makes the transaction so much easier.
And our job is to diffuse the emotions, not to exacerbate or make it worse. But we're there because it's scientifically proven. Everybody knows my favorite book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I don't know if you and I talked about it. You got to read it. Yeah, see, like everybody knows. I love that book. But he talks about diffusing emotions and having conversations, because as long as people are emotional and they're intense, they cannot make rational decisions. Like it's proven. Like it's not like an opinion. It's not like it seems that way. It's, at Emory, and not Emory, maybe Emory too, but Harvard and everywhere else, they wire you up, they ask you questions, they watch your responses, and you literally can't be rational. And a lot of our job in an industry that's so emotional, because it's your home, your family, your money, the three things other people we don't want bothering with, they are when we buy a home. So,
absolutely. And that's why even when, and I don't want to get into this really, but when people come to you in terms of, maybe there's something with the inspection and, well, what about commission? I'm not going to live there. And it's not my house. I have a house.
Right.
It's not for my family. I don't understand why I should pay for a water heater. So that kind of thing is just sort of funny to me, because I'm not asking my doctor to, like cut me a deal and, throw in like some IVs or whatever, whatever it might be.
That's a great analogy. Right.
I don't get it. But when you're saying that, it's just, that's another reason why I think it's good to have a good relationship with the other agent, because it avoids that kind of thing.
Exactly. I love it. So is there anything else that you would add? Actually, I kind of want to end it with that, but I always ask this just to kind of to stack it is there anything you wish you knew coming in this business that you know now? And that might be the same answer.
That would be probably the same answer. The other thing would be, and I didn't necessarily have this impression, but I know a lot of people coming into the business do, that our business is so flexible, that our schedules are so flexible. Yeah. And I have never...
I'm glad I didn't know that, because I might have never done it, and I love it now. Yeah.
I think, I work all the time. We're always on. I try to set some boundaries and have my days. Like today, Mondays, I typically don't take appointments with clients. It's just my day, my office day. I have to set everything. I do all my marketing for the week, that kind of my office stuff, although I took one appointment today.
But it's just one, right?
Just one. And, it's really not that flexible. We're really we're on other people's schedules. So although, that's the other thing, I guess, I wish I would have known how demanding it was. I wouldn't change it. But I wish I would have known that a little bit.
Well, on that, I'd love to know, how do you, now that you've discovered that, as we all have, I love when people are like, oh, it's great, there's so much flexibility. No. But what are some of the things that you have learned or have you been able to set some boundaries or leverage other people to be on so you can be off for a minute? Or what are the things that you do to keep a little balance?
Well, I do try to have certain days to focus on, like my Mondays, that's my marketing day, and just like a maintenance day. I look at it as my marketing and maintenance
Monday
day.
Maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I think, mental maintenance a little bit, but
yes.
The weekend, I think it sort of naturally happened that I really don't have that many showings on Mondays. Over the weekend, people sort of get those out of the way, and they want to see things when they're off work. And then maybe new listings come up during the week, so they want to. But Monday sort of shook out that way for me, and I enjoy that. And I typically work from home. I don't even go into the office that day. That's my home office day, where I can zone in and focus and knock out so much. So I do that. On Fridays, I have just like a follow-up in the morning, my follow-up Friday, where it's my morning follow-up from anything that week that I need to wrap up before the weekend. So if I need to touch base with lenders, title companies, anyone that closes for the weekend, that's just my Friday morning is set aside for that.
I love it. I love all and I can't think of it, but your names for the days. Marketing Maintenance Monday, follow-up Friday.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's easy, but it works for me.
It ingrains it.
Right, because it's just, that's what I do. I try to work around it. I try to also, with the sports and entertainment, with the athletes, I know their schedule. I know their off days. I know the times they're not available before 1 p.m. So in my afternoons, during like training camp and stuff like that, I will keep that time frame. I'll try to keep that open for them. I know it's going to be a high demand time, so I try to keep that open. Whereas, my family's that I work with that are not in that industry. It might be after work, after 5 p.m., 6 p.m. So I have sort of my evenings and then my afternoons. And I try to just keep that in mind when I'm planning out my week, just to make that easier for me. Otherwise, I'm trying to scramble and fit people in, and it's just really tough. So that makes that easier. I have added in an agent that I'm mentoring, and I have a couple other people that I will work on. They're also in the sports and entertainment division. And so we'll work on certain clients' deals together, or I may utilize them if I'm just overbooked or have to travel. But the agent that I added in that I'm mentoring, he's phenomenal. Like I said, he was a former client of mine.
That's
and
great.
Super bright guy.
So former client, so he was a former athlete, or?
No, he's
okay.
not actually.
Okay.
He's a top regional marketing exec for a national company. So, I mean, he's great. He's been helping me with some of my showings and stepping in for that kind of thing. So he's tremendous with that. So that's helped alleviate a little bit of my time, where I can allot more to just some of my marketing and that kind of thing. So that's sort of, I plan my day out, and then I work 7 days a week. And then I try to just take maybe a long weekend here or there where I'm going to go visit family or friends. But
That's great.
So I'll work every day until that.
That's great. All right, so we are going to start closing out because you and I have to get back to work. Two things. Number one, is there a book or a speaker or someone motivational that you want to share with us that has affected your business? Of course, you know what mine is. Never split the difference. But
right. I honestly, the person that I utilize the most, and this isn't an author of a book, is actually our managing broker in my office. And sitting down with her, BJ Martinez.
I love her. Yeah, she's fabulous.
BJ Martinez Perlman, sorry.
So she's going to be on the show, everybody. We had an interview with her, and it didn't record. It's happened twice, and sadly, one of them was with her. But yeah.
Yeah. She's fantastic. So that would be, I'll go to lunch with her once a month, sometimes more if it's needed. And that just sort of recenters me. We can focus on anything that I've had going on that I'm trying to work through. But I talk to her weekly, multiple times a week, whether it's just a text or a call or stopping in the office. But she's really a great resource. And for me, I like to be able to talk through something. So there's certainly great books that I've read, and a lot of people have recommended this speaker or this speaker, but I like to really get into what I'm working on and have someone to talk through it with.
That's great. And BJ Martinez is your girl, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so what is the one thing, if there's one thing we get out of this interview, what would you have that be? Just about our business and about being your best.
I think the thing that has made me the most successful is being myself. And I think that's where the trust has been built in that industry with sports and entertainment, because I am honest and I can't see life any other way. Like, I'm just an upfront, honest person. But I look at things of how I would want to be treated, how I would treat my brother and his family if I'm looking for a house. And that's sort of how I treat my clients too. And I see a lot of that because my brother's younger than me. So I already have that in me.
So you're the big sister to all the athletes. That's it. The big sister. I love it.
Yeah.
That's how you know they wouldn't know how to turn on a washing machine or pay their electric bill. Love it.
Yeah. And also, a lot of my friends' parents are retiring, and I look at them as, my parents are going through this, and it is challenging time. It's not just finding a house. It's a whole lifestyle change. So I think it's just really that one thing is just be yourself. Treat people how you would want your family treated. Hopefully you have good relationships with your family, but, just treat people like that, and go about your business how you would want everything around you to happen to you. And I think that it all works out then.
That's awesome. What good advice. Kimberly, that's the best. Thank you. This was a really fun interview. What's that?
I think it's pretty basic, but
it is. But you know what? A lot of people want to make it so that was it. Like, you nailed it. Like, I think everybody wants to know the trick. What's the trick? What am I going to do to be successful? What do I not know? Or we were in a workshop the other day. I do a workshop, Elevate 8, for Atlanta Fine Homes. And I'm going to eventually start offering it to people who listen to the podcast. But Stephanie and our group goes, you know what? All this time, I realized I had this notion that there's this big secret out there, and all these successful realtors know it, and I'm the only one who doesn't know what it is. And she goes, I just realized, like, there's not a secret. There's no secret. It's just, you've got to be good at what you do. You've got to stay consistent and do it. And I mean, and at whatever level we are, whether we're new or whether we've been doing it for 30 years, it's keeping that foundation and remembering those things. I love it. It's awesome.
It really is. I think it's just, that's it. You just have to, regardless of how long, because if you're not yourself, it will come out eventually, and it's just.
Exactly.
You can't keep up and act that long. It's just not, and everybody's different, and that works for them and their clients. That's why everybody has different clientele, and that's what makes the world go round. But
exactly.
And there's enough to go around for everyone. So the competitive part is cool, but I think it's just, building those relationships is so key as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you.